is not aware of it, we take that idea of the operation of the shoe, and then we take the idea that as the thing is operating, as the thing is being used, I have a lack of awareness of its operative function. As the thing is being used, as the thing is operative, I have a lack of awareness of its functioning. I'm not thinking about how I think right now, I'm doing it. Right? If I was to critically assess and say, well, what I've done here is I'm at a meta-level analysis now, thinking about my lecture series while I'm presenting my lecture series, which I recognize as being displayed to you, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you can do it. It would be trippy. It would be fun. But yeah, it breaks down. It doesn't become what it needs to be. It needs to be now, one, for me specifically, it needs to be, and while I'm talking about it now, it loses its function. Right? But just so that you know when we're clear, this lecture series needs to be a performance, an artistic performance. You need to see me think visually. You need to see me in the process of doing the lecture series. But if it was just me lecturing and talking, blah, 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 you can also look at the, I think it's Dr. Fox or Mr. Fox episode or something like that. Guy comes up, he's a paid actor, pretends that he's an expert, talks to a bunch of experts about bullshit all day, and they buy it. If it was mere performance, and that mere performance wasn't reinforced by dense critical analysis and knowledge, which could be validated by other experts, this would be a waste of time. But the combination of performance and lecture makes what I do effective. Now I have to fall back into my lack of awareness. Now I have to just, I've deconstructed it, so now I have to fall back into my lack of awareness, right? I cannot think about my lecture series and my lecturing style and what I do mechanically and my intent mechanically while I'm doing it, because then I'm doing that and I'm not lecturing, right? So now I gotta get back to lecturing. So, thing is operative plus my lack of awareness of the operative functioning, right? So that the equipment really comes into being. The equipment really becomes what it is once, and we're just like, it's like the first sentence, right? This is ridiculous. Oh my goodness, this is like, it's right on that level, it's just massively genius, right? The equipment comes into function, it comes into being when the equipment does what it was intended to do. Now take that, I have to go off on a quick side note. Now take this level understanding that's in my brain and think about a gun. Now you will understand why I am so profoundly manic, right, when I really think about stuff like that, right? And hopefully what this will do is open your eyes to various types of equipment, right? And you'll be able to really sit back and contemplate on a really bizarre level just the myriad complications that arise when you recognize the equipment, in a sense, when it's being what it is to be, requires you, in a sense, not to be aware of its use. You just need to use it. Think about that. Think about that, right? You just need to use it. And insofar as you fall into that, right, you and the equipment, you blur the line. So now, the example that I promised you from before is this. How can we make sense of this in a contemporary sense? How can we make sense of this in a ghetto philosophy? Super ghetto, super easy, a 3-year-old could possibly understand. You can't say I'm not a team player. I take one for the team. You know, that freaking me whistling, doing the little jig. It's just the greatest, right? But who cares? You know what I'm saying? You gotta really do this. Whistle while you work. Whistle while you work. music as an aesthetic tool for work. Number 3 and number 10. Music as an aesthetic tool for work. Once you recognize that you're listening to the music, it breaks down. It ceases to do what it does. You need to put that music in your head and use that music to prepare you for work, if that's what you're using it for, which is what I use it for, right? Which is why I select certain tracks and I just go back and forth between those tracks, right? And now I have to really incorporate Wheezy into the lecture, seriously. You know, I see you with your palms in your hand, but me, I got the world in my hands. I let it sit on my finger. I'm a critical thinker. I'm a hell of a smoker and a bit of a drinker. I know your name. Your name is unimportant. We in the belly of the bees. Oh, damn! Weezy made that track for me, dog. That's what I'm talking about. I see you with you. So you get it, right? It's like, it speaks, the music at that point speaks to me. Literally. I'm like, I'm going here to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't have to be here. I see other people chilling with their palms in their hands, not doing anything. You know, me, I want the world in my hands. I'm a critical, so it's just like everything just, I lose myself in that, right? It allows me to work. If you're in a kitchen all day cooking, sweating, right? If you are cognizant of what you're doing, if you're cognizant of the work, it's gonna make the work unbearable. Oh man, it's hot in this kitchen. God, the weight of these pans are hot. I'm bending down my knees. I'm standing for 8 hours. I'm moving around. It's too much. It's physically exhausting, right? You can't operationally function well in an environment like that. How do we allow ourselves to become sort of mechanized? How do we protect ourselves from that? Is that we need equipment. We use the equipment to protect us. And it's not physical equipment. It's not even the shoe, right? Heidegger's example of a shoe is a great example, but let's take it another step, right? Music as atmosphere, right? So you put on your headphones, if your boss lets you put on the headphones, and you got a little radio in the back, and as you're singing the song and you're going along, you're focused on that, and you reach a point at which you no longer have to worry about what it is that you're actually doing. You just do it. So that you transform the very nature of your body. Now, I'm not going to get into that level of analysis right now because the world's not ready for that level of the analysis, right? But make the inferences that you want to make at that point. Some of this, you're going to have to think for yourself. All right, so, so they are all, the more generally so, the less the peasant woman thinks about the shoes while she is working or looks at them or even is aware of them, right? She stands and walks in them. She just does it. The shoes require her, but her function as worker, as laborer, also requires the shoe. She just stands in them, right? I love that. It's a reverent, right? So there is a sense in which, in this lecture series, in my series, in what it is that I do, and whatever it is that you do, right? You could be a mechanic working on cars. Insofar as you're doing what you're doing, you got music in the background, you got conversation, sort of idle chit-chat with your friends. That idle chit-chat, right, that stop and chat. Shout out to Larry David, but, you know, Larry David is a bit of a hermit like me. If you're not a hermit, idle chit-chat isn't idle chit-chat. If you're a hermit, idle chit-chat is a bit laborious. It's like, I don't want to talk to you in all practical seriousness. I really don't want to talk to you, right? But if you're in an environment where idle chit-chat facilitates work, then the chit-chat, in a sense, becomes aesthetic. It rises to the level of beauty, right? There is a beauty in chit-chat. Larry David calls it the stop and chat. I love it, right? The stop and chat. And Larry David says, you know, I hate the stop and chat. Why? Because the stop and chat is like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. How's the weather? Blah, blah. Oh my goodness, you seriously talking about this right now? I don't want to talk about that. For some, though, you need this, and it's not a good or bad thing. Imagine that you're in an environment where you're surrounded by people in a close proximity, and you didn't want to talk to these people all day. Well, that would just be odd, right? No, the stop and chat, the idle chit-chat, the back and forth banter allows you to progress through the day. The slave narrative, another example, where you're talking about, oh, whatever, you know, wade through the water, all of that has a particular functioning, right? It has a particular functioning, and it is not just a means of distraction in a rather trivial sense, but it is a way